Exactly. So we're live.
Great.
Amazing. So when we go over here, once, oh, hello. There's a delay. There we go.
Okay.
Prepared for the couple of seconds.
So then, can I email that link from that laptop to myself, or is there a Slack on there or something?
There's no Slack on this one yet, but I'll send it from HQ to you.
Great, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you are.
Thank
You
you.
are more than welcome.
Thank you for your help.
Any issues, let me know.
Will do.
If you want to send me the link as well, I'll just go through and make sure it sounds all right and send it all.
Yeah, great.
Fine.
Just check my numbers. Yeah, make sure my laptop connects right. It should be way smoother than last time. The camera's not going to hop around. Hello, you okay?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Only about numbers, so it'll be really quick.
It's supposed to be off.
I know. Are you okay?
Right, thank you. Am I saying?
Yeah.
Nothing much.
Robert's with you tomorrow?
Is he?
I don't know.
No.
I thought he was.
He was going to do Thursday, but I'm off on Thursday. So we were going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. Good.
Yeah, it's
How was it?
that's all right.
No one else.
Just get through it.
You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, well, that's that big, actually.
Oh, what do you think?
That's actually more explained.
These seats.
Yeah.
Better than.
You see the machine?
No. Oh, great.
Is that true? I've told her, I was giving permission to do this. Sometimes I get called for that.
No, not for my.
All the time. I would have just informed you.
Good guy.
Like in restaurants, I like to see the room. Have a restaurant, come this way quickly. I said, "Oh, sure." Well, I only put lashes on.
Was
I'm going out
someone
to get
from,
Oh, yeah, you are at the bar, yeah. Sorry, it's not for you.
What's this?
That's so Fine.
Where can I do that?
I'm still here.
No.
What is get a stool? Yeah, maybe. I'll get a stool from there.
Yeah, I'll get one of these.
Yeah, I've got it.
I'll get it, don't worry.
He's like got like miles. So I'm still around a lot.
He probably hasn't even started.
Well, no, because He's like gone.
Yeah, just down. You know, started recording a long time ago.
So that camera covers
Honestly,
it.
I thought we were doing. I agree. I've been ill every time I've tried it.
No?
Maybe it's like one I was sick when I went skiing.
Yeah. No, sorry, no, it wasn't. One who you got today, so I'm didn't feel like necessarily as well as that.
You should have seen me 3 days ago. You should know my eyes. Oh, I was like, what's wrong with you? Idiots. My eyes were so full of it. What do you mean? Yeah, you look hideous. I'm so
Control the group. That's pretty low pressure. I mean, it really depends on what
Quick. Alright.
Is this everyone?
They ask for 60 hours.
Is this everyone?
It's the same. 100 guys will be that, so to just say, oh, we've got basically shut off. Do you know what that's it's a 16 uncontacted match.
Sorry?
Uncontacted. Probably good behind the wheel.
No, I'm very happy to.
It's a bit like. Just send all that.
I think so, yeah. Well, everyone, the sooner we start, the sooner we can finish and get back on to other things. So yeah, so just a reminder, this is one of our quarterly meetings, which we committed to last year at some point, which I think are really good because it gives us a really good opportunity to keep the messaging going. And I think this is obviously a particularly important one because it's sort of in some way wrapping up our year and then setting out next year. We've got, I think this is the last week of trading for 2024, isn't it? So we've got a really good understanding of where we're going to finish up. We have the next slide, please. So yeah, where are we going to do? We're just going to do a very quick review. which is really some personal reflections from me. Where we finish, Hannah's going to talk you through the numbers, and then we're really going to focus on next year and the future. So we're going to outline what the budget is. We're going to talk about the team, where everyone's sitting, what everyone's doing, the slight changes that we've made and why we've made them. Setting out the budget, why it's achievable, why we didn't quite get the budget right last year. Had quite a few questions around that, so I'm going to cover that off. I'm going to talk about incentive schemes as well, which is exciting. Then Alana's going to help, going to talk through some partnership stuff and explain a bit about what we're doing on that front. Then I'm going to answer your Q&A questions that have come through a quick roundup. So it's going to be quite matter of fact, it's going to be quite sort of information led. And what I want it to be is setting up for the future and for everyone to understand. I think one of the things that we've tried to transition over the last sort of 6 months or so is to give everyone a much greater understanding of the commercial elements of the business, so that we will have a greater understanding of, when we communicate performance, everyone sort of can relate it to something a bit more tangible than may have been happened in the past. So in terms of 24-25, I mean, for me, it's been incredible. It really has. And I know that the last two meetings, you may have thought that it wasn't. And it's quite a difficult thing for me to explain. I'm just going to explain it from my side. We have grown our revenue, we've improved our profitability, we've increased our contribution to members, we've improved our reputation, we've done so many amazing things, and we've learned from some of the mistakes. So, I mean, I think that there's a lot that we can be incredibly proud of in terms of what we've achieved this year. We've introduced Dreamland into the project. We've signed off more venues. We've delivered up to Compass. We've done all the things that we set out to do. And complaints from many customers. We are in brilliant shape. Hannah's going to talk about the numbers, and they are a lot better than I thought they were going to be 5 or 6 months ago. A lot better. And there's a massive thank you to all of you for that. Because we were looking at 450,000 pounds below our essentially our EBITDA target budget about 4 or 5 months ago. And without steering pounds under that, we're going to land a lot less than that. And that's because we've really focused on our cost control, and we've really focused on our revenue generating. Private tickets smashed it, and we've had loads of fixtures. We've benefited from all sorts of amazing work that we've all done. So, in summary of the year, it's been incredible, I think. And I really want you all to spend some time thinking about the last year and your experiences of it. Where you've been, which venues you've been to, which sites you've been to, which projects you've worked at. Think about the incredible places that we operate. I'm not going to talk about them because there are just way too many. There are hundreds, literally hundreds. 450 or something, so I mentioned the other day. So look, we're in a brilliant place. Profitable, we've got a fantastic team, we have delivered. We made a few mistakes on the budget, which meant we missed it. Simon had a difficult board meeting, which he's told you all about. It was the last thing we wanted to deliver. We had to. You had to have no choice. So anyway, a lot of that will wrap up into where we are. So I want us all to look forward with confidence. with the belief that we can deliver this budget, and we're going to explain in real granular detail why it's very achievable and what it's going to mean for us when we do. I'm really excited about it. I remain excited about it. I love this business, the values of the business. I love the fact that, you know, we're going to Berlin. I love the fact that, which I'm going to talk about later, is that very much destiny. And I really believe in it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about priorities. Simon sent me a note the other day, just with some priorities he wanted me to focus on. And they are deliver exceptional events all the time. Number one, he's really committed to us to continue on delivery. Reputation is important to us. Reputation is important to him. He wanted us to concentrate on cost control, warehouse, stock. These things are important. They're important when it comes to the clarity of the business. They're important for us, just generally. He wanted us to concentrate on private and to really knuckle down on our venue listings, make sure we can retain all those, we don't lose those. For our agency business, for our corporate business. And he wanted us to really, really concentrate on the team and to make sure that our team is massively fit for purpose for the future now. So there's four things really from him. We've got lots that we need to focus on, but I just thought I'd share those with you. So that's what, you know, that's what when I'm trying to make decisions, that's what I'm going to be sort of knuckling down. Those things. And let's remember why, you know, let's remember why we do it. For me, there are three things that really make this business special. One is I talked about, which is us. The other things are the ventures business. I do really love the fact that we're part of a business that runs $7 market is growing to Berlin, is going to have a KEL social club. Really love that as well. One is KEL Plus, and I do feel like there's more we can do with KEL Plus as a business. I really want to focus on that. When we get this budget delivered and when we sort of get on the road, I really want to focus on things like that. But primarily, next one. I think the one thing that really sets us apart is our members, and I think this is what we all really, you know, this is what gets us up in the morning. I think. Speak to a lot of you. I always get your passion for the traders numbers. And let's not just forget that, you know, not only have we done our numbers, but we've generated over £12.5 million for our membership. Small, independent, amazing business, which we are then like. We placed 140 of them this year. Massive numbers of opportunities, huge amount prepaid, huge amount retail. And I really feel like, you know, I've loved all these drop-in sessions. I think they're such an incredible initiative. And, you know, let's not forget about them, because whilst we have the business to run, we are important to a load of businesses. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go through the next couple of slides because I think we'll distribute this presentation so you can look at it. But we deliver meaningful business to a truckload of members. And I still think it really is what is all about. So where did we finish?
Well, I don't need to say anything. So in highlight, it's not as bad as we thought it was 6 months ago, so that's always a good way to start. I think I included it as a breakdown, despite saying to you last quarter that I'd give it to you as one whole. I think it's important to be the message to leave. I'm not going to go through every number one by one because this is for reference point. But what we did do is that we have 2 more weeks left of the year when I wrote this, but really it is one of it, with 2 million ahead of last year, which is incredible. But what that does tell you the story is that we didn't manage our costs. So whilst we did deliver on revenue, we had issues with cost control, and that's why that's going to be a real focus for next year moving forward. And we didn't mitigate risks. So when we were on public events, we were on live retail events, we made decisions that were data-led. And actually, we have to talk about multiple times going into the next year, and we're going to make some really data decisions. And Tom was quite passionately about it, and he's written quite a nice sort of robust plan for that. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But really, 6 months ago, we looked like we were about £150,000 behind EBITDA. We're now 261. And ultimately, if I have to think about what that comes down to, it's serious cost control since January. We have done an exceptional job really looking at what's necessary to spend and what's not. What can be coming from our own team. We had, Nick did an exceptional job at Cheltenham last week, really thinking about staffing and the flow of staff.
Well,
You had a hard time with public events last year, so I think it's good to give you props. And I think the other thing I'll put in here is that we had an incredible marketing public from private, sorry. I think you guys absolutely pulled through those last minute sales. We did it as a team, but I appreciate a lot of those sat with me. So great job on bringing through those last minute March sales, and Toby for leading the front on that team. So this is not the last time you'll see this year, but it is the last time people talk about it as a team. I think we'll wrap it up. Chloe and her team have a real hard graft ahead of them over the next few weeks to get this year completed. Month end is hard enough, let alone year end. But we are in a better place than we thought we were 6 months ago. It's still not where we wanted to be, and we accept that, and that's why we are where we are. But it does give us a really great sort of foundation for what we're going to go for next year. So yeah, let me know if you've got any questions on those, but equally, is there I'll bring in Greg. That's us for this year.
what about this year? Where are we now? Yeah, so this is the team, and there has been a little bit of change. It's come through from some of the questions that have come through. We have made a few changes to the way we're operating this year. In essence, I'm just going to talk you through who's doing what and in which different sort of sector. Where we're striving towards is having a sort of a central team that supports everything, an operations team that delivers everything, a private team that is responsible for delivering the revenue and product development with private, and a retail team that looks after all retail, whether it's Compass, private, or venues. So that's the sort of structure, and in each team. So, for me, in terms of what I want, my main role is essentially to try and lead this team to success, to report directly to board and to SMT, to support revenue generation, and to essentially drive us to success in everything that we do. Commercial team, so Hannah is commercial director, and this team is really here to inform commercial decisions and to support every division in decision making better decisions, keeping in touch with the reporting side of it. One of the things that I've found really challenging in this business has been reporting and understanding the reporting. It's no one's fault, it's complex, but I feel like we've really got to a point where I understand it all, and one of the journeys we're getting to try and ensure that we all understand it as well. Basically brings it all together and supports us all, and is really driving with Jagger and India and Hannah our improvement in process. When we sat in May of whatever it was, October, and we did those breakout sessions, everyone basically said the same thing, which was all about process, all about streamlining, and we've worked hard on Airtable. Yeah, our Airtable was put into a place where we have a really effective CRM system, which is our point of truth. We're not completely there yet, but the journey is really beginning to wrap up. We've been, and I just really, it's a big shout out to everyone to properly engage with their table and make sure that we're all right behind it. We all are exactly what we're told, how the processes are meant to happen on our table, because it's going to streamline our business. It's going to make us a lot more successful, both in revenue generating, in reporting, and understanding, and in our cost control. I really, a massive thank you to those involved in the development of our table. Then we're supported by the finance team, with Chloe, Marguerite, and Danielle, and massive shout out to you guys. Again, there was so much going on in finance, and I feel so much more in control of that now. We spent a lot of time with Hannah and Chloe talking about understanding all the spreadsheets and understanding it all. So this is only gonna improve. Chloe, we congratulate her on the fact that she will be heading off on maternity reasonably soon, and we will have a replacement in to support this process as well.
Which will be Ben.
Which will be Ben, yeah.
So nice to meet you.
Somebody who understands us and knows what we're doing.
So also, I'm sure that I don't want to steal Domi's thunder, so I'm sure she'll announce it, but effectively we're having some additional support in our group entities to support them, enable them to support them.
Yeah.
So someone probably doesn't have to do it. We're
It takes time.
Take longer than maternity leave.
We don't want to start yet.
They take them a year and a half to work out one. Then we've got, and obviously we have support from Noemi and the people team. We have support from Sam, the team from Eduardo, focused on KEL, but is part of the wider health and safety team, and Lana and business development, and obviously the marketing. We've got a new website which is about to launch, which is going to trigger a load of new marketing activity. So that's that's the engine in a way. I think we're not the engine, but that's the way that the support is focused. Then we've got operations and warehouse. You know that my aspirations team to bring this all together, which I think is absolutely the right thing to do. Everything in this business has a connection with the warehouse, with all the stuff, the assets, to feed through that. Is making enormous progress in putting this whole thing together. I'm really comfortable with it, with the team. Yes, we have a lot of operations to deliver, but I feel very confident that the warehouse team are really, of course it was difficult. Having 3 warehouses and moving warehouses this time of year, sorry that it happened like that, Kay, but it did. But we're through that now.
He's still here.
I can't tell you how pleased I am that that you have ops meetings down at the warehouse. That it's becoming a real piece of work rather than a sort of part of the business that supports us. It's becoming a real voice within the ops team.
The internet works well as well, guys, so it's go down.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe even better than here these days.
And Tommy visited last week and talked through all the process, with Flip, and came back and reported real confidence. She came back and said, I was really pleased with it. Yes, that we can help, we can support them to the next level, but there was a real vote of confidence. So, well done for that, and I'm really, really excited about development in the warehouse and continuing. Then there's sort of the retail ops, and again, with any operations team in a events business, there's going to be loads of work. I mean, of course there will be. Everyone has to be adaptable. Everyone has to be but we have got sort of specific focus areas. The retail operations focus, it's Nick, saying, and the freelance project managers. So quite a few of the comments, the questions came back around, have we got enough resource? I think we have. And what we're doing this year is we're operating a lot of the bigger public projects, which are very time consuming, with very high quality freelancers as the plan. So will rather than pay them just to be on site during the project, engaging them pre and during, so that they will be planning and project managing some of the big public projects. We're obviously under the supervision of Tom, Nick, whoever is specifically tasked with those projects. What that means is that we will have resource available for private and ring-fence resource available for private events, and more available resource for the stadiums and things like that. I think it's definitely the right way to go. And if and when we pick up new exciting projects this summer, which it will, then we will have a resource lens on that at the outset, and have either proper freelance look at our full-time resource according to the requirement. Private operations team, very focused with Hannah, Valerie, and Dora, in regard to all the private projects that can come in, whether they're short run or new big private events in fields, whatever. And then stadium operations. So Jordan has slightly moved his sort of focus, and is now head of stadium operations. So he's essentially overseeing all the operations, food and beverage, at all the stadiums. And we have a massive summer of projects within the stadiums this summer with all the concerts. Last year, how many concerts did we do in stadiums? Two. This year we're doing
60.
16. You know, this is massive. You know, this is a big opportunity for KEL, and we need a proper team to oversee it. With Ed and with Wiz. I don't know if anyone knows about Wiz, but Wiz is joining us next week. He is in as for the Midlands full time. He's a great guy. I met him down at Cheltenham, and yeah, he already knows our operation in Birmingham, but he's going to be a really integral part of that team. He's not here today because he starts next week, but yeah, we'll be welcoming him.
Can I say about what Mason as well? We'll also be starting next week, 2 days a week, on a freelance capacity, that helping us operation.
Across the.
We're going over to Silverstone.
Private events, headed up by Toby, and with Ellie, Daisy, and a newbie. We're still recruiting. We haven't quite found the right person yet, the perfect match, but we will. And yeah, and obviously still supported by India as well in that department, and completely focused on our private event business, revenue generating, but also focused on product development, assets, the bars that we're building for the roundhouse, all that sort of thing. Looking after venues, looking after agencies, looking after venue listings, all that comes along with that. Amazing team, amazing delivering this year. Part of the very important to be connected to all the other divisions, services in safety, whatever, and a great ring fence operation connected to that as well. And I think we will get through the year, as long as we get through this week, without any major complaints, which is, you know, I know I've said it before, but it is incredible. I am literally incredible. And it's, you know, I think everyone should be amazed by that. I've been in places where I've been bothered on a very regular basis. So that's good. And next one. And then retail events and venues, partnerships, however you want to describe it, but it's basically as a retail element to it. It's essentially the top. And this is obviously massive, all the partnerships, all the public events, so apart from Coca-Cola. So Daisy L, obviously really integral in the commercial element of that, causing all the clients, all the projects, and then with Casey Healthy as Fred, Healthy's in Morocco, the rest here. Well, you guys, worth mentioning the Dreamland had a meeting here last year, and we took it on the pub, which is and massive, a wonderful opportunity. One of the things why will be which has kicked off really well, hasn't it? Everything's really good. So really good. And the National Theatre is, personally, I feel like we're in a really good place with the National Theatre. Our budget contribution is really balanced, and we are not as operational down there. They've got a really sizable operations there, so it makes sense for us to consult on summer activation and possibly winter activation. But for us to sort of, when we're up and running, is to hand over the operations to the NT team. It makes sense that make better decisions around staffing, activation, or whatever it might be. So that's really important. And then KEL, which is launching over the next week or two, is sitting in it's a joint venture, but it's still in activation. So much like with leaders, I have a team to get projects up and running. And over the coming month or two, when it's bedded in, it's going to come more into our remit for an event and an operations. But it is really best a joint venture with Broadway. And we've obviously got a team that we know down there that we feel very confident in Leo and drive that forward. But it's been set up very much so that it hasn't impacted our general team too much. But I would love as many of you as possible to come online to the sort of soft launch. It is exciting. It's genuinely different and new, and it's a sort of testament partly to our amazing relationship with Broadway that we've built over years. I won't talk too much about it. Go down, have a look at it, and then we'll be start bringing it into our wheelhouse over the next month or two. Then we move on to the budget.
Yeah.
So this is going to need maximum concentration.
I mean, it's fine. I get the fun bits. So 22.5, 26 budget. We're going up in revenue by 1.6 million. And what we're asking for across the board is an additional £425,000 of GP on this year. So what we're going to do is break that down by department, and your department leaders are going to talk you through how that is going to be achievable. Not as scary as it sounds when it's one whole number, but between 4 departments, it's huge, and the additional use. So what we are looking at is a really exciting year because it isn't too far out of our grasp. What was quite nice about writing this budget is, like we just said, we thought we were in a much dire place a few months ago. So actually, when we were writing it, we got the comparisons year on year. It's much easier to get off the line. And I think also SMT really have taken on the challenge that we have set ourselves too high in the last few years. They obviously really want us to grow. We want to grow, but not necessarily individual. I think this is probably the first time they've ever really taken on board the fact that we don't want to stretch ourselves too high, and that the team will understand and know that this isn't the limit of what we want, but it is still exciting and moves us forward. The EBITDA is quite a lot higher than we're achieving this year, so it's about £400,000 this year, but we've got, if you think about it, we are running one warehouse this year, Jay is all over that cost control. He has a team of people that he was really confident in. I think some of the feedback around freelancers is actually a really interesting way of thinking about things. But if you have trusted freelancers and a trusted team of people that you can rely on, you can work through that seasonality, which is something we've not necessarily done in the past. And our processes have ultimately allowed us to be a bit better on our operating costs. So that's where we hopefully will finish up, if not smashed, at the end of this year. And then Toby and Tom are going to join me at the front now to talk about department and exactly how each of those are going to achieve this. Who's first?
So, as you can see, we've obviously had an amazing year so far, not to sort of bang on about that. But we're sort of around that sort of 10% overachievement on budget, which is a really great place to be. When we look at what we're looking to do next year, we're obviously at a 43k increase on GP, which isn't a massive overstretch. We're not pushing anything stupid from our side. We're very aware of the sort of we're going into what the success we've had in previous years, and we're being really sensible of how we're positioning ourselves. Of course, we've also addressed the fact that overachievement the year before was allowed us to push them when we start to put our numbers forward for next year. I thought to have this not start with a 2, but it does just about start with a 2, but that's great. It's a mountain we're willing to climb. It's really exciting, but obviously at the moment we're at this 1971, that's going to go up ever so slightly probably. We've got a couple of events pipeline, a nice uplift, Dojo Tech, and it's rounded up and have a little bit of an uplift as well. If we can get that sort of a 198 mark, it'd be fantastic, and that is then a clean 10% over performance. So it's looking really good from that side. But what are we going to do to keep that momentum going, and how are we going to push to get that a little bit more? So, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to learn from and capitalise on successes of this year. So there will be no secret for people to know that we did some ridiculously big events this year, stuff we've never done before of that scale, and stuff that other companies haven't done before. We positioned ourselves really well, and the industry has sort of sat up and paid attention to our ability to work at that scale. You know, things like your Bloombergs, your Baringas, your Group M's, that's not something we've ever done before. When we start breaking these 1,000-person plus events, start to get 2,000, 3,000, 200k revenue, 300k revenue jobs. To get somebody to agree to spend that much money with you in one hit for like a 1-day job is a significant achievement. So the fact that we've done that now multiple times last year allows us to build on that. We've cemented our skills from that side, but also we want to look at the volume of events. So one of the big things that we looked at historically, our highest performing year is always July. Last year, July we did 52 events, December we did 17 events, and we outperformed in December than we did in July. We never had a Christmas festival this summer month before. So that kind of proof of concept that we can actually do less, but more, so more revenue, more GP, more money to traders, but actually Christmas this year didn't feel out of control. I would hope that the ops team was sort of be on the same page to me, but Christmas is normally, just like summer, it's like complete, mostly heads over the show, we just try and get through it, but actually Christmas felt really manageable this year. And then we can translate that into what we do. That's not to say we're going to sell this. We are still going to sell as many events as we possibly can, but it is taking a slightly more sensible approach. And as I kind of get onto this later, it is that quality over quantity that we start to focus on. So that happens overnight. I'm not going to suddenly say we're going to reduce the amount of events we do in 2026, but being more sensible about how we think about things, how we approach the industry, and how the industry approaches us as well. When we look at this as well, we've got another year of experience under the team's belt. So it sounds like such an obvious thing to say, but a key example is somebody like Daisy, who's run shortage jobs and projects. Now, last year she was fresh into sales, definitely fresh into working with McKinsey, which in itself is pretty much a very serious skill to learn still. So, with that under her belt now, for example, she can now start to focus on shortage jobs, but also work on other sides of this. Ellie's grown into her role significantly as manager of venue accounts and done an incredible job this year. And everyone with that little bit extra on us just frees up their time because it costs take that little bit less time. It means you can focus on the next sale and the next sale, or the slightly bigger sales that are coming through the door. The next thing we're going to be working on is this refinement, elevation, and further bespoking of our products. A big thing that's kind of come from that is with these trader sessions. So through doing that, it actually allows us to understand how many different options we have. Of course, we traditionally work in sort of a one-size-fits-all model. Saving traders do medium portions, full portions. One trader for every 100 people, 3 medium portions. Great, it's off-the-shelf product. That still works, but by understanding all of the products that are available at our disposal from our traders, through sitting down and actually talking to them, and then bouncing it around ourselves as a team, it gives us that massive understanding and that capability to give our clients actually what they want, to actually compete with the traditional caterers and not just be street food stuff and trucks. We have, of course, historically we've done canapes and bulk food and trade services, but this year we have, last year we did take that to the next level, and we can continue to grow and develop that, and more understand our skills from that side. And it's also the responsibility of us as a team, like we suggest, to work on that product development. There is an element that comes into this. So when we look at events, you do that's not saying we're a public event, but you do a public event, you piss a couple of members of the public, or you have a circle. It's not ideal, but you move on through. You're always going to upset the public, so really hard to work with. In a private job, there isn't any margin for error in that same sense with that customer facing piece, right? If we upset the natural histories in, that's £1 million of revenue gone. We're done. Like, that's a massive hit to us. We don't have that sort of cushion of, everything has to be such high standards. So by taking back control of the traders and our products, it allows us to have a little bit more control and to ensure we have that security as we continue moving forward. We can't afford mistakes. So there is that slight piece of, traditionally it was all opportunities for traders. We are going to be a little bit more conservative with how we work with businesses at the end of the day. And when we get to doing those arenas, etc., we have that very honest and open communication, which we've had with traders now. It's not all opportunities for everyone. We're not going to take any that's important. So it's just not going to happen. It was naive for us to have this already to do that, but that's kind of, the curve route. We will still always stick to our routes. However, we are being a little bit more sensible from that side. And then we've got the development of the products to compete with the traditional caterer and particularly increase winter work. So Kay will have had about 25 boxes come out of the warehouse this week of our new prototype modular service station. So the way that the traditional caterer competes with us is they offer service stations. So they're food stations. And that is like their version of street food. It's sitting like a bar or something like that around the venue and serving street food style products over that counter. They're all the same. You get the nice uniform effects. Can't really buy into it. It's all brandable. Well, our first prototype, we're looking to buy 8 to 10 of those units for ourselves, but we can actually offer food one. The street food is authentic, but we're giving that product. The traditional caterer might win a sale over us. That side of things. Particularly when we look at winter work. I'm sure you've all seen gazebos inside spaces. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it looks a bit shit. But actually having that uniform product, that really clean aesthetic, is going to work really well. These units are express heat lamps. You get hot coppers in underneath them, like traders that we've spoken to in trader sessions have been really on board with it. And again, it's going to be one of those things. It's not all traders, there's some traders that can do it, but it's going to really increase and elevate what we're doing, and particularly around that sort of winter work, it will slightly give us a bit more opportunity around that Christmas time to do those bigger events and to work smarter, not harder. So the two main drivers, quality over quantity, and the work that people want. Those are the two things we're working towards. It is that client management piece, and as Viv says, not giving anyone any money back for the whole of 2024. 2025 is still to be seen for the next couple of months, but 2024 we can give back a single penny, and the reason for that is it comes down to our operations team always delivering on site and having super incredible deliveries when we're there, but also the expectation management for the sales team. There is always a very, there is that operational mindset from the outset. We don't oversell and we don't set ourselves up to fail. There's a million sales people who will just tell you you can have the world and then deliver not very much on that promise. But by having that focus and being really client focused and delivery focused, that's what we're going to continue to do and continue just holding such a strong reputation across the industry. So that's it from me, just a lot of talking, but I hope that kind of makes sense. This is very achievable. It's like one more and at the end, which we should do, or scrap those small ones and just do like 3 big ones and so, yeah. All right.
Cool.
Thanks, Tom. I've got a few more notes, so we shall see on the next slide. So that's what we'll do. So a little bit more challenging last year for retailers, I think we all know. I think looking ahead to this financial year, you see on our public GP, we're not putting massive amounts on our bottom line. I think kind of in last year, Q was obviously a massive supporter of where we landed from our year end this year, and that was down to some of the great cost control that we had from the team on site. And then from a partnerships perspective, you know, I guess budget this year, it was really challenging because we over budgeted essentially. And we've got events in that we thought were going to happen that didn't happen. We didn't get close enough to Compass in terms of where their budgets were at. So we worked really hard in the last kind of 5 months. 5 months, isn't it? to kind of be really aligned with our partnerships budget, to make sure that we don't make the same mistake going forward. So in terms of the partnerships budget, you know, there's an increase in GP there that you can see. This has been shared with the board and obviously all the business directors across Compass. So they're absolutely aligned with their budget. So football fixtures align with, you know, category A and category B, for example. Concerts are aligned with the number of concerts they've budgeted. Just so there's a bit of kind of alignment there. And we obviously got more concerts this year, hence the increase. The number of concerts is massive, a lot of them are bar driven, which obviously massively helps our bottom line. So that's kind of a big driver. In terms of public, we've renegotiated on Hampton, so that's supported kind of our performance going into this year on paper. We've also got a lot of work to do in terms of cost control, which we're going to look at. But that's going to have a positive impact on our numbers. And then we're looking we have added more prepaid areas to some of our retail spaces. So Daisy's been working very hard with the Goodwood client to kind of secure some kind of hospitality spaces. So basically underpins our retail and just gives us our traders a bit more to kind of go at. And Silverstone is kind of keep growing. Again, we've got a retailer on there, but we've just secured a bigger hospitality space, which is really quite exciting. And again, that kind of underpins that operation. And obviously, we intend to keep going into this year. It will be our final year before they go to a full retender. So, and we've not put a massive uplift on that at all for both Halloween and Christmas. So for me, there's two main focus or two main drivers. Kind of optimising performance. I think we all know we're into a really kind of challenging year. Ticket sales were down across the board this year. Spend is down, so we've got to really look at our operation that we currently have and how we optimise that, and also control the controllables. I think I want to put loads of points. To kind of say, because I think we said a lot about kind of cost control, and I think it's, you know, what does it mean? So I've kind of just got into both areas. I think they're really, really important. I kind of hope to put some context to what I believe and we all believe as senior leaders that controlling the controllables means. So in terms of optimising performance, I think there's three key areas. How do we improve transactions and speed of transactions? How do we look at our labour and use our labour that we have on site more efficiently? And how do we upsell? So increase that spend, increase that transaction value. Ultimately, it's going to support our operation on the ground. I'm going to fix them, shall I just say? Can you all read them? Yeah. So we already kind of suggested the team or showed the team that we've got on kind of operation. I think having a more focused team is going to really support our delivery. You know, Jordan taking his role across Stadia is going to have more focus on Stadia. Stadia's been really challenging this year, just with the number of fixtures, demanding clients, changing of goalposts, excuse the pun. It's been really tricky, and having Jordan and team to support the delivery of those events and have a bit more focus on it is really, really going to help. Kind of drive that part of the business forward. Same goes for the other half of the retail team with Nick and obviously Hussein now moving into that role, looking at more greenfield sites rather than people getting pulled left, right, and centre as much as possible. And so that gives them more accountability on the P&Ls. We'll look at the controllable pieces in a minute, but those P&Ls and the people that are running that part of the business fully in control of that P&L, and are fully accountable for it. I want to make that really, really clear going into this financial year. Team briefings, I think we go to a lot of events, and our team briefings are really, really weak. It's an area that you know, we're working on looking ahead to the year around how we uniform that, and how we put focus on performance for our staff to give them motivation to get to drive that part of the business forward. Alana is not here yet, but she will be talking about our drinks partners. I think giving you the tools to understand who our drinks partners are and how we can best use them. And they can also optimize performance in terms of using their brand, essentially their assets, which might be better than our assets and things like that. So how we can kind of tap into that. Clear day by day revenue forecasts. And we have as a job and we have as a queue. It's really important that you guys have, as operators, have the operators in the room, have a clear understanding of our target. And that gives a good bit of motivation to kind of go into the next day for our kind of multiple day events. We'll be doing a bit of this already, but till by till performance. So across our stadiums, every fixture, we do a breakdown of what percentage of revenue is going through that specific till on that specific part. And it's really important. I'm looking after every day to kind of see, where the gaps are in training, why people go to that part of the bar and not the other. How can we drag people further down that kind of part? Cheltenham last week, should I say? And just small wins just to try and improve performance. Labour obviously is a control element in terms of optimising with our staff on site, making sure that we can have staggered starts where possible, supervisors are jumping in, actually acting as bartenders versus standing back and watching. We need to utilise every bit of penny that we're kind of putting through their payroll. Data insight, this is to come this year. I know some of you have spoken about E15, which is Levy's arm before built. And they have an amazing insights team that we've not tapped into. We started engaging with them. Very, very early stage in just kind of creating our own dashboards that essentially are good tool system feeds into a dashboard that will monitor some of these performance related things that we've talked about. Again, early stages, but again, trying to use data to inform decision making quickly. So as soon as that we kind of get to the position where that dashboard is in a better place, I'll be hopefully pleased to kind of share that with you. Queue busting a busy period, so getting our team out, at the back of queues, making sure they're going to the far end of the bar where no one's stood, driving staff through the turnover of customers to kind of maximising sales. Of course, our traders are very wet led because that's what we have most control over in kind of busy periods. But the traders also bring income into our retail business. Ensure we've got quality, variety, and output in those spaces. So traders that we know do serious volume in the right pace spaces, giving them the right detail of the events, so they can manage their labour and their stock accordingly, so they're not running out of busy periods, and just giving them the best chance to succeed. That's obviously really optimistic from that as well. In terms of controlling our costs, I think giving you guys the tools to commercially operate is something I think we've not been very good at since we have been here in 4 years, and I think it's just been a little bit lackluster. So having are working really kind of hard to have the P&L ready and distributed, as quickly as possible, so that you guys know where we're looking to spend across those events. And regular check-ins, I think we've seen in the last 6 months, where we have done really, really well with our cost control is we've had regular sessions and kind of monitored spend leading up to the event, but also during the event where possible. And I think those are going to be really crucial as we go into a really busy period. Again, utilising our drinks partners, so ultimately has their own views on our drinks partners, but some of them will benefit our cost as well. And they're not fit for purpose everywhere, but where we can use them and where it's appropriate to use them, we will support our costs. So I'm going to detail about that shortly. Obviously mentioned a little bit about Airtable. I think really, really important that we engage with Airtable, me included. I think it's, the guys have worked massively hard on it, and I think having this data all in one place is vital to our success moving forward. I've got a feeling our benefits, we do that for every feature, but every week, so making sure they're done correctly, so it feeds into the wider system is going to be crucial for moving forward, so we can use, actual data to inform decision making. Planning, which I've put a little bit further down, we're getting the best price on our infrastructure. I think planning as far ahead of it as possible is going to support our bottom line, and making sure we're getting the best price, getting multiple quotes for infrastructure and ops spend is massively important. Squeezing most out of our labour on site, and managing their time on site to ensure that we're working as efficiently as possible. Stock is obviously been quite challenging, again with stock. For those that are involved, it is our biggest risk. We have so much cash lying around the country in a liquid format. I think goes a little bit unnoticed. I really want to make sure we have stock a bit more this year. And again, having more focused team areas will support that. But we're going to go into weekly stock closures, especially at Stadia with Jordan and his team. So we're finding the variances and trying to mitigate them variances before closing the team, get to month end, and we're trying to pick things, back in December at the moment, which is massively challenging. So just trying to get ahead of that on a weekly basis is really, really important. Obviously, good till is our Bible, and utilising good till correctly and everyone working on that process so that we refer back to good till, staff training, our stock counting, making sure that we have people freelancing across site, know exactly how we count stock. And security of stock is an interesting one. We've got chemics right at the back of the city, which is over the fence, and just having being a bit more proactive with our approach in terms of our stock security, and paper trails of stock is making sure if something isn't turned up, we've got that leading back to the venues, drawing through venues that we can work backwards easily. I think we've already seen a massive improvement in the last 4 or 5 months. Kew and Cheltenham being two recent examples. Cheltenham was down 25%, yet we're nearly enough hit budget, which is amazing. It just shows what we can do if we've got control doing these kind of things. That's that. Venues. So, I would obviously best mention a little bit about National Theatre and Corner, but this just shows exactly the kind of contributions to curb events for these two venues. Obviously, it's the first year for Corner, and this is, as they've said, bringing events into our straight to our bottom line with minimal impact. Obviously, Flicks, big shout out, she's been doing quite a lot of work in the background with National Theatre to get us open for 16th of April.
Yeah. And I think just to help Tom with Corner here, the JD for this is set much higher than that £100,000, but it is the first year. We don't know what it's going to do. So that is a percentage of what is actually in the joint venture. So there's so much more potential within the year. But we have this number before, we're putting in is actually in the joint venture. So we're really keen to keep that as low as possible. So we agreed a percentage of what is actually budgeted for the corner. So yeah, I think seeing £100,000 is all we get out of the joint venture is more about us being reserved than it is what the actual budget looks like for that. That's it. So Hannah Walton heads that up at the minute. She's going to see that through to get started running together, and then it's the team there on site that will deliver as Kelsey and her team deliver Dreamland.
So yeah, Dreamland, as you can see, we've got quite a big increase in terms of revenue, which main driver is sequels. We've not put a huge amount on the Dreamland main side in terms of the arcades and the concerts, but main driver is sequels. So that's why that number is slightly higher. In terms of Dreamland, obviously we've got some of the team here, which is amazing to see them. We've got 1 year under our belt, so which is massive. We have said, as Biff said earlier, we had an amazing year one. We had no idea what we were going into. I remember Alfie was, we've on the phone constantly ahead of launching in October last year, and it feels like we've got a really, really strong team in place. And that they're going to kind of take us to success going into the year ahead, both the Singapore and main side. Obviously, Alfie kind of heading up Singapore with Freya, and Alex coming in to take over the F&B role. We've got Darren, who starts on Tuesday. So we've got a lot starting Tuesday at the moment, which we start of the year. And Darren's taking over what used to be Gavin's role essentially, so we'll be supporting Alex on the day-to-day, making sure that we're ready to go for hard days and seeing stage dates. We have a record day on Saturday at All City. We did 25 grand in the bar on Saturday, so you were throwing deep in Ellis. And the club, I think, had its record as well. So amazing to see. Again, trying to use year one's data to inform our decision making, going into our second year, into the summer period. We benefit from our bar owner being the first thing you see when you walk into the concerts. So that hopefully won't change things. We are slightly down this year on the number of concerts that are forecasted. So we've driven up the budget, but we I don't think it doesn't look like it's going to have too much of an impact. Just based on where our location in the bars are. We've got a new food unit in this year in terms of PC hours, and the other two operators are the same as last year. So kind of setting ourselves up for success there. We've got additional park days in October. A big research now, which is a big event, it's now an extra day. And yeah, obviously a big focus on Singapore this year and making that an amazing destination in the market for locals, for the community, but also for on big days, maximising that space. So yeah, we focus on the points I kind of made earlier. I think that's about it for me. Thanks.
Just to wrap up before we take on to the waiting list. Look, I hope that breaking it down like that shows you that the budget for this year is what I thought is incredibly achievable. It's the first time I've sat down and gone to it. It feels like 2 for 1 and the same number that is that in front of me. I think really clear, easy ways that we can achieve that, and I'm quite excited to go into the year I've got to talk about something that's £1 million ahead of where I wanted to be. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will be joining each of your teams meetings in a few weeks' time just to go through that in more detail for your department so you can ask questions. So I feel like it's a lot to just stand here and listen, but yeah, exciting. What's it?
So obviously there's been a lot of conversation around an incentive commission structure. I've spent literally since I've joined fighting for a KEL event incentive scheme, which we now have, which is I think a big step for us. It's not that I don't believe in the project. I do massively believe in the project. But I think what, we all know that an incentive scheme, if an incentive scheme is connected to things that you have no control over, it just makes it quite difficult to really rally behind. And I think what I sense is that sometimes not being paid a bonus on the basis of underperformance elsewhere or perceived cost increases or whatever there have been, and I think there's always been that sort of sense that, anyway, you know what I mean. The reality is this is an incentive scheme that is KEL refers to KEL, so this is in our destiny really. We can all influence this, and I think it's eminently achievable. What we've tried to do today is set out what the budget is, and this incentive scheme pays out on this budget. So budget achievable, incentive scheme connected to that budget. Simple as that. It's been created on 2 levels, for salespeople and for support, essentially. And again, I'm not going into too much of the detail here today. We're going to have meetings over the next 2 or 3 weeks with line managers and everyone to talk through what it actually means for you individually. But essentially, there's a percentage of GP for sales and a percentage of salary for partnerships, ops, and support. So it's a percentage of what you earn or a percentage of what you generate. 1% of personal GP for the sales team, and it's uncapped. So if you go way beyond, it keeps paying. And it's based on your individual performance. So essentially what it's trying to do is it's trying to incentivize revenue generators to generate more revenue, and everyone else to support the revenue generation, but also to improve GP so that we hit overall targets. There is going to be an incentive scheme for the wider group as well, and their incentive schemes are going to be ring-fenced there as well. I think what I'm really keen for is that we focus very much on what is in our control, but also celebrate successes elsewhere, but not have them financially connected. So we'll be talking about what it means to each individual over the coming weeks. But I'm really, really pleased that we've managed to secure this. We know that Simon would and still would prefer a group scheme, but he's been persuaded by me and Andrew to change that essentially. And it's not because we're not one team, it's just because this is now in our control. So last year we achieved a GP of 3.9.
Which Toby's just told us is going to go up by another 10, 15. So.
Yeah, okay. So this is about achieving 4.348, which means essentially we need to find another £425,000 for this scheme to pay out. And just in absolute summary terms, and I think we so of that, corner, an additional 100k. Sandfords, an additional 150. Concerts. I mean, put on the spot there.
I think the breakdown, you obviously will just receive the breakdown that's made out of, and I think it's really clear that that is an achievable number. And I think what you can already see from simply adding corner and Sandfords, we'll argue that till we've had the house on home, is that you've already got £250,000 of that 425 straight up on those. So I think, well, does your oyster, like it's finally a budget bonus scheme that feels achievable and reachable.
Does that mean, so if, as a private salesperson, you hit your target, you only get paid commission if the whole group is getting that target of the actual 400?
EBITDA performance bonuses only.
GP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine. So private person's commission is affected by how the course does, retail everything.
Yeah. We'll talk through it in detail. Yeah, and it has to be, because it has to be affordable.
Yeah.
But it is affordable as KEL events, or as KEL events and seminars, and Berlin, and other things, and central team.
And I think the important thing to say on this is that there will be 1,000 questions on how it impacts you as an individual, but I would take the opportunity to soak this in once today's done and positive messages around it, and then sit down with your line manager and break it down for you in money terms for you as an individual. I think that's the best way to look at how this works.
Cool. She gets Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to give Alana an opportunity to talk about the work that she's done in terms of drink deals and things. And what it means to us and what the to curb events of the work that Alana has been doing.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah, you're on.
Excellent. Cool. So I think as most of you guys know, I've been doing a lot of work over the last year or so on our drinks partnerships and deals in general. As of sort of 18 months ago, really, we didn't really do anything with drinks partners other than we had some historic partners that we always kind of worked with, people like Gypsy Hill, East London Liquor Company, that kind of started with us, kind of on the journey early on with us. Obviously, are very much independent brands and, have grown with us. But I think we have obviously gotten to a point as a business where, not to say we've outgrown some of these brands, but we certainly were not maximizing the kind of commercial ability to be working with bigger drinks brands to sort of leverage pricing or to be able to be getting, more, better commercial deals, more commercial incentives. So I was kind of given the task of sort of almost ripping it up and starting again with regards to how we were going to work with drinks partners moving forward. So, a lot of the work that's been done has been a bit more focused on Seven Dials and will then be focused on Crib Social Club, mainly because they're fixed sites. It's a little bit easier. As we all know, Crib Events is a tricky business that does lots of stuff. We have a lot of tie-ups with our drinks, with Stadia, with some of our partners that we work with on public events. So it's been a little bit trickier to try. There's a lot of kind of sort of tag ground rolling when it comes to trying to figure out how we do drinks deals that kind of benefit Crib Events. But I think we've gotten to a really good point now, and I thought this was a good opportunity to kind of explain some of the work that I've been doing and more specifically speak about how it can benefit you guys moving forward and how you can really be taking advantage of it. So, sort of why and why should you care? So, all deals that we do from a drinks perspective, they have a revenue implication, and that revenue implication mainly, I'm going to go through kind of how deals are structured on the next slide, so this will make a little bit more sense. But if a company gives us money to list their products, that is pure profit. That goes straight on the bottom line and it goes straight onto EBITDA. So I know you guys have been talking a lot today about next year's figures and bonuses and incentives. And so, this, even though this is the kind of group level, obviously anything that we're getting from a listing fee perspective from potential drinks partners is going to sit straight as profit on the bottom line. It's going to increase our EBITDA. That's very discernible. It's also going to lower. It'll depend. I mean, some of the deals sit across everything. I will sit in group. If there are things that we do specifically for Crib Events, that would sit obviously on your guys' specific P&L. If there's stuff that we do for Seven Dials or Crib Social Club, that tends to sit, in those venues. But something like Asahi, they give us 80 grand a year. That sits at group. That filters straight down. You know what I mean? That's gonna, and then that is a pure profit figure. So they give us 80 grand. We don't spend, that is not money that we then our costs sitting again. So that is that's pure profit that we will kind of see the benefit of. So lowering our costs. Obviously,
new deals offer better pricing. And I'll just give you some examples here. So our move from Coke to Pepsi represents a 32% savings in terms of what we're purchasing Coke for versus what we're purchasing Pepsi for. Moving from can of water to Brit Bar, again, 33% savings. And moving from Het Cat to Meantime IPA has been 12% savings. So it's not every single move is going to be a cost savings. We are going to make strategic decisions based on wider deals that we might do, or places where we think the quality of things is just better potentially than other people that we are working with. But on average, we are making quite a lot of savings when it comes to kind of moving from old partners, and oftentimes, just people that we were working with because just work with Coke, right? It's a good brand, we get it. But looking at this and interrogating, especially when we're doing huge amounts of purchasing in for certain SKUs and certain types of products, there is a huge implication of it. Infrastructure contributions. So, a lot of the ways that these deals are structured means that people are going to give us things like bars, like refrigeration, like flushing machines, like cups, things that are going to lower our cost of sales across the house. Consolidating our route to market. This has been another big challenge and a big part of what I've been looking at from a sort of drinks perspective. So prior to looking at a project, we were buying and purchasing from a lot of people, which means from an operational perspective, everything was having to be brought to the warehouse. We weren't doing a huge amount of getting stuff sent to site because we had kind of a lot of suppliers. There's operational considerations, there's sustainability considerations. So what we really try to do is obviously try and make sure that as much stock as possible is coming from as few suppliers as possible. Obviously, the more volume we put towards those suppliers as well, in theory, the more sort of authority that we have to start getting better pricing as well. So as most of you know, our main route to market is Nectar. The reason that we moved to Nectar is because when we were doing our big beer deal last year, Asahi brewery Nectar is owned by Asahi, so they kind of come as a package. So you sell Asahi, you tend to do your route to market through Nectar. And what that started was it kind of gave us a reason to kind of start consolidating with one route to market, and we started to kind of continue to consolidate within that route to market. It doesn't mean that we can, in theory, now, if we're buying from anybody else, we can say to Nectar, we are getting better pricing on X, Y, and Z from Hooker or from LWC or one of the other people that we have worked with in the past. You match that pricing or you better that pricing. And in theory, they should be able to do that for us. And we've done that work with some dials so far. We've literally said, Drinks Warehouse, this is every single thing that we were buying. We want to buy the same things from you guys, Nectar. This is your pricing. Cool. Put them up against each other. Well, this is cheaper, that's cheaper, that's cheaper. Great. This is more expensive, this is more expensive, this is more expensive. Can you match those prices? We have saved across the board at 7 dials, 7.5% on total sort of every single SKU that they do. We do need to do that piece of work for current events at some point, but it's been busy and it is simple. No, and it's finance we need to get involved in. It's worked quite closely with Alicia for 7 dials on that, so it is a project that we'll be doing. The point should be everything that we're getting from our nominated route to market should be the absolute best price that we can get for something, and if it isn't, then we need to get to force them to sell it at that same price. And also, what Nectar is really good at is that if we find a product elsewhere that, something like Pirates Rum, which we used at Q this year, which was extremely good, high quality rum, and it was a good price. We wasn't stocked through Nectar. We asked them to use stock this on our behalf, and they said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, to be being very honest, obviously working with a wholesaler means that there is a markup on that. So if we got every single thing direct from every single company, it would be cheaper. There's no world in which that wouldn't happen. The convenience and the sort of operational efficiency of working with one big route to market means that across the board, we're going to get the best pricing, but obviously that assumes that there is a markup on that because that's how business works and they have to make money as well. Diversifying and improving our drinks offering. Again, we're talking to a lot of people now that we didn't potentially have access to before, or big kind of machines of businesses where we maybe didn't have the right contacts, we didn't really know who the right people were to speak to. So I think what I'm really excited about now is that we just have a lot more option at our fingertips. You know, if we have a client who especially wants something, if we want to do something really themed, we've got the ability to kind of, we have best pricing, right people in the right places to be able to kind of get that, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, we'll just buy it in because the clients requested it. We can do it in a bit more of a holistic approach. And activations to create added value. So again, this is probably a little bit more relevant for public events, but how a lot of these deals are structured is that there is a big budget that they have dedicated to using for curb. And so again, that can be infrastructure, so that can be, in the meantime, driving the bus last year to Battersea for a few weekends to sort of help us as an extra bar. But we can also sort of pass some of this on to our clients as well. So, if we're working with a gym brand or, and they have money that they want to invest in us, we could look at shortage bargains, or we could look at something for, Somerset House, whatever that is. So I think there's different ways that we can use some of these budgets, and I think it would be good to sort of think really creatively about how we can add value to our clients and our customers, not only from public. It's going to be easier to do it for public events, obviously, but could we be looking at it for private events too, and how does that kind of work? Yeah. So how are deals structured? There's basically three key components to any DRIPS partnership. There are listing fees. This is pretty straightforward. People give us money to stock their products. Normally these have a volume commitment included in them. So we say, we think we're going to sell X amount of beer, and they say, great, here's X amount of money. You have to sell that amount of beer to X money, and you usually get sort of 50% of it up front, maybe 75% of it up front if I do a very good job negotiating. And then once you hit those volumes of whatever that is, you get the rest of the money. That is cold hard cash. That is just an invoiced amount of money. It gets sent to us. Retros are the second piece. You hear the term retro or the term rebate. These are basically small commitment backs that we get on everything that we sell. So, you might get £10 per keg, you might get £2 per bottle of vodka, or you might get £1.50 on a case of drinks, something like that. So we usually report this quarterly. So we'll look at all the volumes in a quarter. We'll figure out what we're owed on all of that from anybody who gives us retros, and the finance team will invoice those suppliers. So it is also just hard cash. Those are just amounts that are invoiced, and we get that money. But that is very much based on how much we sell, and it's tied to that. So think of it almost like a vending commission, the same exact thing. And again, the bigger the quantity, the keg, the more retro, the smaller quantity, the bottle of booze, and less retro. But some of the deals that we've got at the minute, if we hit all of those volumes, we could be looking at another 50, 60, 70 grand in addition to listing fees in just retros at the end of the year. There are also retros that come from a certain route to market. So somebody like Booker, they offer us a 3% rebate on everything we purchase through Booker. It's like a weird world, and I don't actually know how anybody makes any money, if I'm honest. But again, just when we're making decisions and choices, there are actually some choices and decisions just make a huge amount of sense for us commercially moving forwards. And then activation and marketing budgets. And this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. Some companies, their goal is more that they love the Curve brand, they see the cool events that we do, they see our venues like Seven Dials, which has 40,000 people that walk through it every week, and they want access to that. So they will say, we will give you 100 grand a year for marketing. Normally that comes in what we call non-invoiceable spend. So it isn't like we can invoice them 100 grand and then use that 100 grand to do whatever we want from a marketing perspective. They will spend that money on our behalf, if that makes sense. So something like we did 50 dials at 7 dials at Halloween this year, that was through Meantime, who's obviously our beer, one of our big beer partners. We sort of said to them, we're going to do this as an activation Halloween. We think it's going to cost about $30,000 to put on. Are you interested in supporting us and being our partner on it? So instead of her paying that money to do Spooky Dials, Meantime basically paid for us to do something we would have probably done already, but we then didn't have to pay the cost of it. So yeah, brands pay to activate with us, either at fixed sites or events. And again, this can include infrastructure contributions. So Britvic, who's one of our new partners, they love a fridge. They would love to give us fridges everywhere, all the time, and every day. So again, are there events where we need fridges? Great. Let's get them from Britvic instead of hiring ourselves. So that's not very sexy, but very, very it is practical. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Again, cars, vehicles, extra, we're talking to Double Dutch, who are one of our soft drink suppliers. We don't work with them too much in KEL because they're only in glass bottles, which means we can't use them very much. They're very interested in doing something in Hampton Court. So they may bring a small bar, pop it up, do some cocktails. Again, it helps us because it helps take assets we would have to provide for an event. We don't provide those assets. But also, it's just really nice and value add for clients. So we can say to Hampton Court, I know you have all your own sponsors, and you will do that as well. But we come with this corral of sponsors who can be doing some really interesting kind of stuff to make our offering your event be better. So these are our current partners. I don't really need to go through all of them. You just know who everybody is. Asahi, obviously, they're our main beer partner. On top of Gypsy Hill still brew us Curb Lager. Curb Lager is our house lager. We very rarely then use a different lager anywhere. There have been some supply issues with Gypsy Hill recently in getting the carbon negative beer. We have actually started using Asahi at 7 dials. I'm just saying that in case anybody says Gypsy Hill on, that's what's happened. But again, for Curb events, we normally use cans of Curb Lager. Britvic is Pepsi and other brands, so that's Libre, canned water, London Essence, which is mixers. They also look after Jimmy's iced coffee, Punish, milks and shops and things like that. So they have quite a large portfolio. They also do quite a lot of children's drinks, so they do J2O, Fruit Shoot. So again, if there's any events that we're looking at that have a large kid audience, they're really good to kind of tap for that sort of stuff. Majestic, as everybody knows, is our new wine partner. So they will be sort of almost exclusively, unless again we have to work with somebody else somewhere. They will be doing all of our wine for us moving forwards. Lucky Saint. We always talk to them. We get paid to talk to them, which is great. El Rayo is our new tequila partner. So again, they trials launch them at 10 dials, but we should start using them for the rest as well. Good product, given what we're using before. Lalo in the spring is going to be our new canned wine, which is very exciting. I've got actually some cans outside. I'm going to get some more sent so everybody can try them, but they are beautiful, cool. They've got really lovely design on them. I think that it's going to be a real step change. Canned wine is going to become more and more important, I think, to us, but also industry-wide. And I think a big move forward is working with somebody, a small company who actually does food and wine as opposed to this. They're really lovely. Yeah. Again, not cheaper. This is a place where we have made a decision that we're actually going to have a more expensive product, but A, we can charge more for it when we're selling it, and B, I just think from a client perspective, it is just a nicer option for us to have.
More expensive than that.
More expensive, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's cheaper to sell, it's less people like this stuff to have glass one.
Yeah, I think the problem with nice too is you can buy the Sainsbury's, so people are like, why am I buying this for 80 quid when I can buy the Sainsbury's for 250? So this is something that's not, you're not going to see anywhere else, which I think we can do from that price a little bit. Remy Cointreau, Double Dutch, and Diageo are all contracts that are SDM only at the moment. In future, I'd love to roll as many of these out across everything as possible. sometimes it's just not going to make sense. We actually don't need as much range as quick sites do. So, obviously when things work, they'll work. But the other thing I don't want to do, and obviously having intimate understanding of current events, I don't want to try and force stuff on you guys that's not going to work and it's going to sit in the warehouse. And, so I'm just trying to be quite gentle with how we how many of these people we're not forcing on you guys, but that we're working with the right people.
How would East London Liquor as a business?
I'm always a little nervous.
I think that's another point, isn't it? Is that some of these really small independent companies can come with a bit of risk.
Yeah.
They're owned by the mangrove now, though, so they are pretty well.
So they're not
Yeah.
really small.
Big drilling, just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Although Megger didn't know about the issue of cans.
They need to sort that out.
Yeah.
We
digress. Yeah, and then.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we want it to be a win-win, don't we?
100%.
We want to be engaged with this, what we're doing.
Yeah.
But we do, I think we all want to keep we want to have any issues with forcing things on clients that might.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, again, we work with, we now work with a massive, well, we always worked with people that could get us whatever we wanted. We even have better buying power now in terms of you have a client that wants something specific, you have a client that doesn't want any of this stuff, it's fine. We can make it work. The thing with Nectar is they stock everything. So if we need to get some Coke instead of some Pepsi, or we need some Absolute instead of some East London Liquor or whatever it is, it's all fine. Obviously it knows that if it's not core product, we try and do sale and return as much as possible. But again, working with Nectar, we have a sale and return policy, so it doesn't really matter. You don't have to have those negotiations with our clients because actually have that negotiation with our markets, and we shouldn't have to worry about that. So even if your client needed 5 bottles of Grey Goose because their CEO drinks, whatever that is, if we get it through Nectar, we can. Just a little call to action for me. So, those partners can really, really benefit now. Obviously, we talked about it, but there's infrastructure and equipment support. Again, something we haven't really talked about, there's opportunity to have free or discounted stock for internal events, for client entertaining. All of our partners are really, really keen to support us in that way. So something like Majestic, as part of our deal with them, they give us $2.5 grand worth of free stock every year. So that can be used, we probably use some of the impact dinner, but that could be used if we wanted to for shortage gardens promo or something like that. So, we have the ability to ask these partners for quite a lot. Obviously, there's also an added value proposition for private events that I don't think we really looked at yet, but something like Diageo looks after pins. If we wanted to, if we wanted to start selling or putting a sort of PIMS activation into some of our private events packages, we could look at that. We could ask them to give us a PIMS trike and stock for shortage gardens or for Bloomberg, or, I'm just making it up, whatever that looks like. We have the ability to have those conversations. I think we just need to start thinking outside the box a little bit about how we leverage some of these relationships. We just never looked at it from a private events perspective. We've always looked at it more from a public events perspective. Also negotiating sponsorship deals on behalf of our clients. So we had an interesting one last week where we have a client who's looking at doing an event for Wicked at the Roundhouse. She wants a drink sponsor. And so I can very easily reach out to all of our drink sponsors, my kind of contacts now, and try and broker those deals on behalf of our clients if there's ever a need to do that. So that's negotiating with clients who want us to use their sponsors, but that's the other side of it. So if we're doing something like Somerset House, and they have their own drinks partners, we have the knowledge and the confidence now to be able to go to the table and say, yes, no, this is what we want, this is what we don't want, because we do it for our, we're the client in a lot of these situations. So we kind of put that hat on and say, we totally understand that you need X, Y, and Z from an operational perspective, we need this, that, and that. And I think we have the confidence to know where we can push back and where we can't necessarily push back. And I think that's coming from just like getting very, very deep into this whole world and kind of understanding it. It's all about the art of the possible. Please ask if there is anything from a drinks perspective that you think a client mentioned this, or wouldn't it be cool if we could do that, or would Asahi, Tom met some of the guys from Britvic last week, and I mean, you ask them 5 5 things and they just said yes to all of them, right?
I mean, they're not 8 Guinnesses, but I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah, no, they wanted to own us.
This is a lot of stuff that we've not had a huge amount of experience with before. I mean, we said, could you set up temporary dispense at Cheltenham so we could be doing post next year for Cheltenham?
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, absolutely. Just let us know. Like, that's fine. We could do that for all the concerts this summer, say, if we wanted to. Like, there's a lot of operational efficiencies and cost savings in here. We just need to ask the question. And 9 times out of 10, everybody's very, very keen to work with her, but everybody's keen to kind of get these partnerships up and running. So if it is possible, they will normally say yes, and they will then spend money to get it done. Engaging with new partners. So please ask if you think there's anything that I can help with on any of this stuff, and please engage with the new partners. So all of us commercially, much volume through the people that we are working with now. The other thing on the deals side of things is that there's also, with quite a lot of our deals now, there's a sort of growth incentive. So if we hit for a certain, there's parts of the drinks industry that don't give money. That's just kind of part of it. So wine, notoriously, they don't give listing fees. It's just not part of that world. What we've negotiated with Majestic is if we hit for a certain amount of volume, they will then give us basically a listing fee in reverse. So we're not going to get it up front, but if we sell 30% over what we said our volumes are going to be for the year, they will then give us a cash injection. So, it makes a lot of sense to purchase as much product as we possibly can to the people that we're working with. But the caveat to that is that it is never mandatory. If you have a client who does not want to work with one of our partners, or for a reason you don't want to, just let's have the conversation. We can always find a workaround. But as and when we can, let's do it because it's going to be better for the business commercially and operationally. That's me.
Thank you.
Any questions? That's pretty good. All right. Great.
Thank you.
Lily there, just a few final. Just wanted to answer some of the Q&A. We have quite a few questions come through. An operations team that can look after food and drinks at events, which I think is important. So we're getting maximum benefit from the resources that we have.
Can I add something there? On that, not sure if everyone knows, we've got an open day happening on Thursday, where we recruited a number of freelancers to the health and people team at SDM. We had an open night. There's real rules. The second part of that process. We've never done as much thorough investigative CV work with our freelancers before now, but so we're actually the hard work and the team been doing that. We should see an amazing core team. Is this the our operations team, not just a freelancer anymore?
And we have 11 people coming on Thursday.
Wow, it's amazing. And let's not ignore the fact employing people is getting more expensive. That is reality. We have to be careful with How do we know we won't make the same budgeting mistakes this year? I think we've answered that question today. I think we've been through it really thoroughly. We have interrogated this budget a lot. I'm really comfortable with it. Hannah's really comfortable with it. We're all really comfortable with it. clarity on salary increases, please. So, this is not in my remit. We heard it from Simon. It was a difficult message for Simon to give. It was a message he had to give based on a board meeting. He can't say this, but I'm going to say this. And I'm not clearly can't guarantee anything, but when we prove that we're in a good place in a few months' time, my sense is that Simon will change that decision quicker than he may have said already. But obviously it is about keeping on track over the next few months to be able to make any changes to that policy.
And just to be clear, salary freezes are referencing to pay rises outside of promotions and not referencing the 0 to 3% that you can achieve on an annual basis. Makes sense?
Is there a reason that we raise forecasts year on year when we know that football and ticket sales are falling? We haven't done that. The forecast is higher because we've got additional projects. But the forecast, for example, last year in our budget, Hampton Court was budgeted to make 100 grand. This year it's budgeted to make 30. Upside. Which is taking into consideration a potential reduction in ticket sales.
With a new deal at Hampton Court.
With a new deal, which is mitigating lower tickets. So what we haven't done is put in top of the line GP expectations for each project. We've been really conservative with what we put in the budget this year. Do you feel we're well set for summer? Feels like we're going in with even shorter resource than normal, and company-wide morale already feels low. Do you think we have the relevant capacity and skill set available? I personally think we are. I think we're in a really good place for this summer. We know what we're doing. We're already in a good place with planning. We've made the changes we've needed to make. We've lined up the good freelancers. We've interrogated the budget. We've got a much improved warehouse operation. I think we're in a really, really good place. Company-wide morale does feel low. I agree. It was a tough message to hear the other day. Of course it was. And that's, of course, that is going to affect everyone. It's affected me, it's affected everyone. But and I'm not just saying this, I just feel really excited about it. And I've been involved in quite a few companies where these sorts of messages do communicated from time to time. But where we've ended up this year is a lot better than what was being seen when that message was given. We're in a really, really good place. And we've got a really, really amazing team, and we've got really, really amazing projects, and a good plan. So I can't tell you all to improve your morale, but I feel really excited about it, and I want you all to do so as well. Relevant capacity and skill set. Yes, I do. Again, I do. The next one. So this question, one question. I'm not going to read it all out loud, but it did. Whoever wrote it, I thank them for writing this question, because we sort of built this whole quarterly review based on this question, essentially. But yeah, I mean, there's lots in this that I think we've covered today. I hope we've set out the plan really clearly. It's all there for the taking for us all. KEL is going to be really busy this year. The central team are going to be really busy. China's going to be really busy. There are lots of projects that are happening that are going to absorb quite a lot of time. So just really, it's a big call out to all of us to really drive this KEL events project forward. without too much sort of, requirement from SMT and everything. I feel like now that we've set it out really clearly, that we can just crack on and make it happen. But I think, have a look at that. If you haven't covered any of this, please reach out to me or line managers and ask for further clarity. And we'll be going through individual incentives as well. I think that really brings us up to the close, really, doesn't it? Which I've been through. But amazing team, secure and clear plan, achievable budget, ring-fence incentive scheme, exciting year for the whole of KEL, but also for KEL events. And let's relax and enjoy it. That's my message. Thanks for your time. I'm not going to step up and massive. It's a lot of hard work that we do, and it doesn't go unrecognised.
Thank you. If you could help us all try to remember, that'd be
Yeah, I'm going to go to the pub and we'll find everyone a drink later if anyone wants to join me. Probably at 5:30. So yeah, and please come to the quarterly tomorrow if you. Obviously those locally are a bit easier, but it's going to be amazing. It's a really interesting project. We're engaged with it, but it quite rightly has had its own team to activate it.
The terms of that petition. Table to back.
What pub does everyone?
Thank you.